Welcome back. You're still watching Citizen TV and you're speaking to the IEBC commissioners, the only three that are remaining, Chairman Wafula Chebukati, Professor Abdi Guliye, and Commissioner Boya Molu. And we were speaking about the cost of managing elections and political processes. And Commissioner Guliye, of course, we know that one of the cost drivers, like you have elaborately said, is the cost of ICT. And if I remember, back in 2017, there was that delay in procuring the technology that was used for the election. But even come the time of the election, it was still, the election petition at the Supreme Court, it was still a challenge because there are those that said that we were not allowed to access the servers. There was a court order that servers be open for access, but that didn't happen. So this time round, you still have the KIMS kits. Probably you still have the software that was managing the elections. I'm not sure about that. But if we were to go to a referendum, how possible is it to use the same technology and probably bring down the cost despite the suspicion that was that time?
Thank you very much. As a commission, we want to undertake any activity that is going to reduce costs. And in 2017, we procured the KIMS kits. And the KIMS kit was used for the 2017 elections, both the general and the repeat. And the kits have since been lying idle with us. We have not been using them, except for a few by-elections where we use them for voter identification. And therefore, they are as good as new. And as a commission, we feel we could reuse them before we can put them out of service, at least for the coming elections. And this would substantially reduce our costs of technology. I know there are people who have a lot of issues around reusing it, attributing it to the vendors who supplied the kit. This has even gone to the extent that Public Accounts Committee recommended that they should be barred from transacting business in this country. But that matter has since been resolved in the courts and cleared. And the kits are with us. They're still reusable. We can substantially reduce costs if we use them. And that is our wish, if it is going to be acceptable to the main stakeholders. Of course, if it's not acceptable to the main stakeholders, then we have to buy fresh kits, possibly with new softwares in terms of applications for the next election. And this is not going to be less than 5 billion Kenya shillings. And so we have a serious decision to make on this, and stakeholders have to be on board. And if we truly, all of us, want to reduce the cost of elections, then we have to look at the reuse of this technology objectively. Mm-hmm. We have the kits. There are right now, they are dispersed across the country. And if we had funding, we had planned to bring them centrally so that they are serviced regularly. Any applications that are on those kits can be updated. And so this has not been happening. A number of the kits, we lost them through adverse weather conditions. We have had floodings in some of our stations, and we have lost a couple of them through flooding or when water has flooded some of our offices. And so if we are to reuse the same technology, then we have to have additional kits. At least we anticipate probably up to around 5,000 more kits. And so that is our position. Mm-hmm.
So have you conducted an audit to see where they are, how reusable they are?
What we have been doing is asking our county offices to try and see if they can power them up and see which ones that are working and which ones that have, the batteries have gotten flat. And so this has been an ongoing exercise, and the 5,000 figure that I'm trying to suggest is as a result of replacements of either those that were lost through adverse weather, mm-hmm. or through batteries having gone flat by virtue of not having been serviced for a while. But even then, that is not enough. We intended to bring them centrally to have a workshop for them, where we can critically look at them and see how we can put them in a serviceable state, okay, ready for deployment. Mm-hmm. We hope that we will get support in that direction. In terms of the servers, we are confident with the servers that we have right now. In the last election, there are some servers that didn't arrive in time for them to be ready to be deployed for the 2017 elections. And actually this had forced us to put some of our activities to be using a cloud-based server. And that is why we had challenges of trying to open the server in time, although, by the way, they were eventually opened. Nobody wants to say that, but they were eventually opened.
Were they verified?
They were eventually opened, and when we asked them to come and check whatever they want, nobody came back was interested in. I think that is the fact that many people have not been reporting on. Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, we are not there where we were then. Our servers have been now fully operational.
And just before you conclude, because one of the most famous quotes of the Supreme Court hearing that time is that the servers were in Europe and the people were asleep there. Never mind the time difference of less than 3 hours. What is the true position now?
As I mentioned, we were forced to use cloud-based servers because the servers we procured then were not provided in time for us to deploy it for the elections. So we have things.
So they were not in Europe.
Our servers were with us, but they were not ready for deployment, for use. They were not set up for use in readiness for the 2017 elections at the time. But we have since ensured that all the servers have been, commissioned, and they are now in operation. Okay. We have them both in our primary and secondary data centers. Mm-hmm. And at this time, we will not talk about cloud-based servers anymore.
Okay, but because you're saying that nobody wants to speak about the servers we eventually opened, I'm just curious, because that election showed that Uhuru Kenyatta was leading with 54%, if I'm not mistaken. And the NASA team was saying that there are certain things that were done to ensure that the candidate lost. Have you been able to do an audit of the servers, and what did you find? Would you still stand with the figure of 54%?
Our systems have not been critically audited, but we have done self-audits internally, but we would have wished to have done an external audits. The audits that were done at the time were audits done by Verizon, through the people who supplied us the technology. I think the results at the time was showing that there was no tampering from the audit reports that we got at the time. Mm-hmm. But legally, we are supposed to do an annual audit of our systems. This is one of the challenges we've had since 2017, because each time we factor in that in our annual budgets, it is always removed. So, which therefore means that we have not been able to do a detailed audit of the systems as per the requirements of the law. Mm-hmm. Having said that, I think what we are now planning to do, which is something we asked our ICT to do, is to get local experts mm-hmm. to do an audit of the system. Mm-hmm. And this is something we will have to revert to, because we don't have adequate funding for an external extensive audit. Okay. We will now be looking at the in-country resources available mm-hmm. for them to come and do an audit, at least before the referendum, if there will be any, and even before the next general election. So statutorily, we were not able to do the annual audit as required because of lack of funding.
And Commissioner Molu, this question about we don't have sufficient funding, we make application to the exchequer, that money is taken away. From my reading, this year you've been allocated about 4.4 billion shillings. What is wrong with IEBC and its relationship with the departmental committee that you have to report to, that is JLAC, as well as the National Assembly Committee on Budget, that you're not able to convince them that you need money to do these very critical issues that would go ahead to ensure that there's credibility moving forward?
Essentially, there's nothing wrong, but it is just the mindset of our governance system that election is only dealt with last minute. That's why we always emphasize election is a process. that runs 5-year cycle. It's not a last-minute thing. But generally, every time we put things according to that cycle, if you look at even our recommendation to BBI, it's one of the major recommendations. If you look at our post-election evaluation report, it's one of the main observations that funding has to be according to the timeline. But it has never come, because generally people believe election is a one-day event. You wait for last minute, get money for that moment and do everything and run away until next round.
Is it frustrating?
Very. Extremely frustrating, because as an institution you are ever at preparatory stage. Every election year you are ever starting the process. You are never building or growing in your experience and in your structures. Infrastructure is ever under construction. Your experience is ever last minute rush. You do last minute training for people, last minute procurement at high prices and under difficult circumstances. So it's a challenge that calls for all stakeholders to change their mindset about the election management process.
Right. I know, Commissioner, you want to say something about that, but I need us also to make progress, because the I in IEBC stands for Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission. So that independence, and of course, we are seeing several proposals, and I know you wanted to talk about the boardroom wars, which you can in the next round. But that independence, there are certain proposals in the BBI report that say that it would now be good to have 4 of the 7 commissioners being representative of the political parties. There's also a proposal that the 3 of you will have to go through fresh vetting to see if you're suitable to continue serving for the remainder of your term. What do you have to say to that?
Thank you, Sam. The issue about, you talked about transmission of results. I wanted to weigh in on that, or you'll come back to that?
We can come back to that later.
Okay,
after this.
Okay. The issue of the BBI, as a commission, we were invited to make our views to the BBI, and we wrote. The first time we made a written representation, our views were not taken in consideration. And then the second time round, we again made a written representation to the BBI team. And that report is there on our website. It is very clear. We have said as a commission that an election management body needs to be independent. The political parties bring in commissioners here to manage election. To us, it's not the right way to go as a country, given that there are various diverse interests who need to be, who require an independent commission. And that we have said very clearly in our representations to the BBI. However, of course, we now see there's a draft bill. The position of the commission is this, that political parties need to be part of every process of elections, right from registration of voters. They need to participate and know what's happening, to the voter education, to the polling day itself, to the result. They need to be part and parcel of that. And that's the legislation that requires to be done in the country to give space to the political parties to be able to monitor all these processes. But for political parties to manage elections, I think it's not the right way to go as a country. But that, having said that, we have the referendum bill with us. As a commission, our mandate under the Constitution is to run elections and referenda and also boundaries. So we shall do our work when the referendum comes. And but that is the views we gave earlier, which of course were not considered, and here we are. So I don't really want to speak more on that. I would want to just say that we made our views. They were not considered. Okay. And let the Kenyan people decide.
But Chairman, there's that proposal that actually it's in the schedule of transitional measures that have to be taken, that the 3 of you will have to go through fresh vetting. I know the Constitution is very clear on how to remove a commissioner that you feel is doing the wrong job or the job wrongly. So will you present yourself before a vetting team if that becomes law?
Sam, our fidelity is to the law. As a commission, our fidelity is to the law. And if there will be law that time, that we have to be vetted, we shall cross the bridge when we reach there. But we have no problem being vetted, as we have done our work according to the law, And if that time comes and we are told go for vetting, we have nothing to fear. We shall be available. But as I said, let's cross the bridge. When we get there, it's up to the Kenyan people to make that decision.
Prof, in this country we have had several electoral bodies, and since the passage of the new constitution, this is the second one. But as you can see, you just at review, you're missing 4. What do you have to say to the idea that, yes, you be taken through fresh vetting at a time that there's also a proposal that new commissioners should only serve for 4 years? If you are to serve for 4 years, then you'd be exiting, is it January of next year? From your experience, what do you think should be the best way forward, despite your self-interest? What should be the best way forward in managing an electoral commission?
I think, first of all, electoral commissions or electoral management bodies should not be politicized anywhere. As we speak now, our staff are all confused. We are going to do referendum. We don't know in what state they will be. They have all been made to be jobless as far as the proposals are concerned in the referendum bill, proposed bill. It's not good for the country, because you need people who are devoted. We have a lot of staff here who have spent their life in this commission, who have gained a wealth of experience, and all of a sudden they are going to be reduced to joblessness. Some of them have mortgages, they have various undertakings, and when you're in that state of mind to conduct election, I think it will not be fair for the country to put their electoral management staff through such kind of challenges and expect them to do extremely well. I think in terms of managing the commission, there are various scenarios, but the one that most countries adopt is where we have an electoral management body that is overseen by people that are not allied to any political affiliations, and that is still our position. We think that any commission that will come should not be brought by commissioners. I think there is sufficient...
You mean by politicians or commissioners?
By politicians, should not be brought by politicians. And I think that there is sufficient evidence to show that if they will be brought by politicians or political parties, then there is no guarantee that there will be harmony in terms of conducting the elections. It has been alleged that those of us who are in the commission from 2017 were divided along party lines. What if now you legitimize that division by bringing people who are already politically aligned? Things will even be, the boardroom will even be hotter as it is going to be, from the look of things. And so I think it is good to have a commission that is free from interference. And the debate that has been is on whether the commissioners should stay or go, or whether our staff should be permanent or contract. I think we have missed the debate. The debate should not be the individuals. The debate should be the processes and the procedures that we as a commission are implementing. I think we are losing the debate. That should be our focus. How are our processes? What are the challenges that the commission has in trying to deliver a free, fair elections? And those challenges are enormous challenges that since we came to this commission we have discovered. And unless you fix those challenges, even if you bring angels here, they will still be faced with those challenges, and they will be branded at one point or the other to be either belonging to certain politicians or political parties. So we must be focusing on the system and the processes rather than individuals.
Right.
And for us, since 2018, that is the route we took. We came to oversee the elections very late in the day, which should not have been the case. I mean, at least 2 years before the election, you must be in the commission to understand and to settle and to be able to meaningfully contribute to the process. But we came very late in the day. Elections happened, the challenges were there. And since that time, we have decided on our own to see what can we do to improve on the systems and the processes and procedures in the commission, so that going forward, we have better elections.
Right.
And since that time, we have undertaken a number of internal reorganizations. We have relooked at policies. We relooked at the HR policy of the Commission. First of all, we started with the post-election evaluation exercise, which we extensively did, and of course, it culminated in the production of our post-election evaluation report, which report now informed two things. One, internal legislative reforms, or rather electoral legislative reforms, and secondly, internal review of internal processes and procedures in order to strengthen our governance and operational structures. And as a result of that, we have been able to do a number of policies, and we started with our HR manual. The Commission had very rudimentary manual and matters HR, and we have relooked at it extensively, and now we have completed that particular manual, and it has already been implemented. The other issue that we dealt with is the issue of financial management. And since we came to the Commission, and of course informed by the internal audit that we did, we were able to identify the weakness areas in terms of financial management. And now we said there is a need for a financial management manual to capture the processes of the Commission. And as a result of that, we have come up with a manual now, which is now in operation.
Right.
And this is a document that is going to guide financial management, not just at the headquarters, but across our county offices in the whole country. We are again informed by the challenges of procurements. We have lots of issues on procurements, and we said, how can we deal with this issue? And we decided to create a proper manual, complete with our work procedures on procurements, and that we have also completed, and we have actually launched this particular document, which is now in force and operation. So this is now going to guide all activities on matters procurement and asset disposals in the Commission.
Right.
We've also strengthened our audit directorate. Of course, we have the audit charter, which is normally given to us through the Ministry of Treasury, but we have developed our own audit and risk compliance charter, and we have now developed a policy, internal audit policy also. So these are documents that now are going to guide the oversight of the Directorate of Audit, and we have also enhanced them. One thing which
are they already being implemented?
These are already now implemented, and they're actually in operation, all of these documents now. We've completed in the last 1.5 years. When our colleagues had left, and the three of us when we were left, this is what we have been busy with. We decided to look internally to see how to enhance the efficiency and documentation within the Commission so that we can have better elections going forward. And so we were looking at how do we improve the governance of the Commission, how do we improve transparency and accountability within the Commission. And so this we have succeeded, and we have now rolled out all these documentations.
Right.
In addition to that, we have done several other policies, social inclusion policy, gender policies, we have done risk policy. So we have a number of other policy documents, all of which are now in operation. And I think
if this has been done since the 4 colleagues left, and you're actually saying that it's been a success, is there therefore need to have a commission of 7? Or what do you think is the best number to work with, despite what the law currently provides?
Actually, informed by the challenges that we had when we had 7 people, and I think one of you mentioned that there were issues in the boardroom, which I think, as my colleague said, it was healthy debates. By the way, if in a boardroom, if everything will be agreed upon, then that's not a functioning boardroom. There is something wrong with that board. Either they don't know what is happening in the Commission, or they are complacent and they are in bed with the secretariat, and therefore they are not questioning anything. So if there will be questionings and if there will be debates, it contributes to clarity of issues and better governance within the Commission. In the submissions that we made to the BBI team, we actually proposed 5 commissioners. Because again, you do not want to have too many commissioners which can be an entry point for other stakeholders to manage the commission. If you have a large group of people, you never know where the loyalties will lie, and so they might be used as entry positions to manage, to influence decisions of the commission. So in my opinion, I think 5 would have been a better number. But if the BBI is proposing retaining the 7, remember before the commission had 7 commissioners, they had 9. And previously we even hear of over 20 in the past. So over the years, the number has been reducing. I think this is in realization that perhaps you don't need a crowd of people to make the policy decisions for the commission.
Okay. And Commissioner Molu, the question that I am yet to get a response to is the tenure proposed of 4 years. If within those 4 years you've managed an election, come up with all this documentation, do you think then it's appropriate that, for instance, in January 2021, you should have left the commission and another team takes over to manage the election of 2022? Or how much time do you think is appropriate for a commission to do a good job, learn the job, but also do it as it should?
Sammy, I think as a country, we always do trial and error with our lives. Before we came up with the 6-year term, we had a very violent post-election situation in 2007. If you go through Kriegler report, he talks of commissioners being in office long enough to understand the process and be able to manage the process properly. That is when, again, he recommended, instead of having a short-term staff, the staff of the Secretariat of the Commission should be permanent and pensionable. As we speak now, we have one of the most informed, most trained, competent Secretariat. You can talk to any of our field staff. We have over 500 staff in the field. You can ask any one of them in the midnight to explain to you the process. All of them are on their fingertips. And I say that with a lot of confidence. The same applies. I mean, they are in that situation because they have been in the process, they have learned over time. These are people who don't need any training unless there's change in law or change in technology. You don't need to train them on anything election. They hit the ground running. The same should apply at the top level of the commission. So the issue of 4 years is just telling us that, and indirectly that has been the case, because since 1992, no commission has conducted 2 elections. We have been changing frequently, and that is part of the problem that we have.
I think Kivuito did 97 and 2002.
Not entirely, because half of his team were appointed in 2007. When half extras were appointed, the rest were removed. So that confusion, you remember, that's one of the main contestation, that Kibaki appointed people single-handedly to the commission. About 9 or 10 of them came in a year to election. So if the institutional memory is not carried forward, that every time you establish something, move forward, cut it, and then start afresh, then that is just a trial and error we have been trying, we are proposing. So it is not good for the institution, it's not good for the stability of the institution. We cannot have an institution which is ever in the learning, which is ever on transition.
Right.
It is good to have a commission which outlives one commission, one election, and conduct another. And the best way is to stagger the appointment of the commissioner, so that at any given time, there are those who have been there, conducted the last election, a new group learning from this. Then when you finish this election, this one leaves, you replace.
Right.
So when you do that, you have stability both at the secretariat level and at the policy level.
Which I find a bit desired. I just needed to correct what I just said a few minutes ago, that he conducted 97 and 2002. I believe it's 2002 and 2007, if I'm not mistaken. But if the amendments being proposed in the Constitution come to fruition and you agree to go to the vetting and you're cleared, and then some 4 commissioners are picked to represent the political parties, would you be willing to continue serving in the commission?
Of course. We have no problems having in the commission, but we have aired our views, the danger of having politicized boardroom in the election management body. You can imagine a situation where political parties have their agent in the boardroom. Those guys will not have interest of the institution, but interest of the appointing authority, which is the political party. Since you cannot deliver as an individual agent of a political party in the IEBC boardroom, if you are to push party interest, then it means this person will go ahead and recruit staff also downwards in the political line. So you will have a commission which is divided from the top to the bottom according to political lines. Then what happened to that institution? If we have about over 70 political parties, and I'm told there are over 600 waiting to be registered. If we have that number of political parties, and you have 2 or 3 appointed commissioners, what happened to independent candidate who will take care of their interest? What happened to the other parties? You see? So an institution which is a political agent and still expect the others to play in the same game. So it is not only dangerous for the commission, but also very dangerous for the country. What happened to Zanzibar in 2016? They finished the election, half of the commission, the political party commissioners walked out. Chairman was left with the result unable to announce. Look at Mozambique, just in Africa. That is the channel they use to appoint political parties. The commissioners are appointed according to the party strength in the house. When the guys are in the house, in the commission, every commissioner struggles to make sure his appointing authority remain in power so that they retain the seat.
Right.
So it is a situation that people are trying to play game with the stability of the country, which is dangerous for all of us.
And Chairman, knowing that risk and the threats that exist, I don't know, first of all, are you confident that you can manage a referendum if it comes in the 2022 general election? A yes or no?
Yes.
Right. Sorry for limiting your response, but so in that case, if it becomes law, I know there is a new act, the amendments to the IEBC Act that allow for the picking of the balance of 4 commissioners. We don't know whether it will be implemented before the said referendum. But if it reaches that point that there are some 4 commissioners representing political parties, knowing this danger that he's talking about, and having the experience of what you went through in 2017 and the repeat presidential election, would you still want to put your name on the line for already the risks that you're talking about?
Yeah, Sam, I think if you go back to 2017, maybe the picture which has been painted is not entirely correct. Remember the Supreme Court judgment. If you look at the Supreme Court judgment which nullified the presidential election, actually the Supreme Court acknowledged that 4 processes were perfectly conducted by the Commission. The process of voter registration, the process of polling, the process of identification of voters. All that was properly done. The only issue the Supreme Court had was the tallying and transmission of results. And then remember, we went through a fresh presidential election where all the issues which were raised in the Supreme Court were corrected. And there was a petition filed in again for the fresh presidential election. That the 5 judges, I mean all the judges upheld that election. If you remember.
Sure.
So what am I saying here? That the issues which were raised in the first petition were all corrected in the second fresh presidential election, and carrying forward as a commission, we have again internally organized ourselves so that at the end of the day, the only challenges we have are actually external, which my colleagues have touched on.
And actually that's the question, because why NASA didn't participate in the October repeat election, October of 2017, is because they wanted IEBC commissioners out. And that is why I'm asking, if we indeed entrench that some of the commissioners have to be appointed by political parties, and you're here with all that experience from the external forces, would you still be confident to go ahead and lead such a commission?
What I'm saying here is that we have set up systems which are now in place. Internally, it's a matter of following the systems in place. External challenges like funding and interferences, of course, they'll always be there. But whoever comes here as a commissioner from political party will have to follow the systems which have been put in place. The policies and manuals are operational. So it's not about what my political party wants. Of course, if you are appointed by a political party, you must have loyalty to your party. It's about you and the Constitution and the people of Kenya. And I hope that these individuals, if they come, will have to realize that their loyalty is to the people of Kenya once they are appointed, as opposed to reporting to their parties.
I wish you had more time, but
yes.
I need really to quickly get through this, that the BBI report, there is a declaration by a host of members of parliament and the Senate that they're going to support it. Never mind how they'll do it because of COVID-19 requirements that were announced by the president. But the calendar of events saying that this bill will be presented to IEBC, the signatures verification must be done within 30 days, then take it to the county assemblies and must be finished at the county assemblies within 30 days. Then after that, taken to parliament, and quickly, I think it's within 45 days, it has to be out. What are you thinking, even before you receive this bill? Are those timelines achievable, knowing what you've gone through previous bills, whether it's Okoa Kenya or the Punguza Mizigo bill?
Well, thank you, Sam. We have not received the referendum bill and the signatures.
Sure.
Our job starts when we receive the referendum bill and the signatures from the promoters. And that's when we shall be able to tell the country this is how we are going to do it, and these are our timelines. I know some timelines were given, but a number of timelines are legal. There are timelines that we cannot compromise with the law. And as a commission, we know that there are certain things need to be done. And so we shall look at the issue once we receive the request for referendum. Okay. But most probably we shall have to rearrange those timelines. But
is it realistic for the Commission to verify 1 million signatures plus within 30 days?
If we go by the previous undertakings we have done, I think Okoa Kenya and Punguza Mizigo took roughly about 2 months, to do those verifications. Okay. So as I said, once we don't know how many signatures will come. Maybe there will be 5 million, maybe 10 million, we don't know. So you cannot give that estimate of time until when we receive the request for referendum.
Okay, all right. And Commissioner Gulia, so now, yes, you're saying that you're confident you can use some of the technology that you have. If that referendum is to go, as they are saying, between the month of March and June, is that enough time to, first of all, seek for budget, to receive the money and do the procurement you need to do, and also service the technology that you have already?
Again, it will depend on how much allocation or how much support we will get in terms of funding. There are certain activities that you can hasten in terms of like if we are to reuse the technology, if it's agreeable to all stakeholders, that is, and we are to reuse the technology, then it means we have to bring them back and service them. The servicing and updating will depend on how much funding we have. Whether we will employ 1,000 people, 2,000 people to do, to shorten the timelines is dependent on how much budgeting that we will be having. Okay. But having said that, I think the referendum is not going to require transmission of results. So that challenge of electronic transmission and whether there will be acceptable or not, and interferences and all that will not be there for the referendum case, since it's not compulsory to use technology in terms of transmitting results. I think it will largely be, apart from the voter identification, which will be through biometrics, the rest of the processes will be largely paper-based. And so I think we can live with the technology that we have in terms of conducting the referendum. But having said that, I think the preparations will also take time because we have to recruit staff, the temporary poll officials, they need to be trained. And so the process is much more than people think. It's a very easy exercise. There is a lot that go into the preparations, and we hope that 2-3 months should be sufficient to prepare to do the referendum.
And that doesn't affect the timelines for preparing for an election, which you at least need some 2 years?
it will even actually help us, because if we use referendum budget to service our technologies and to upgrade our systems, it will in a way make us even contribute to the preparations for the main election. As has been mentioned by my colleagues before, elections is treated as a one-off activity. So once an election is over, our funding usually diminishes, and so we have not been able to do voter registration. Kenyans are turning 18 every other day, and we have to put them in the voter roll. We have not been able to do this because we didn't have funding for that. Voter education has not been one other core mandate of the commission, which is voter education, has not been happening adequately because of inadequate funding. We will be given money in come the next election, when the political messaging will have polluted the whole air.
Right.
And so this is the time when, outside the political seasons, is the best time to actually do voter education. But we don't have that budget. So we are hoping by doing a referendum, we will be factoring in some of these other budgets for these activities as part of preparation for referendum, which will also be contributing towards preparations for the 2022 elections.
Okay. I have one last question. I don't know who takes it. I mean, you can decide amongst the three of you who does it. It's HR related, and so far we know that the Commission does not have a substantive Chief Executive Officer. There are a couple of senior officers that have left the Commission. Has this affected the operations, and how soon do you think you can fill these positions to ensure that by the time you have this important exercise of referendum, probably these offices are already having substantive offices, people who can take responsibility? I don't know who wants to take it.
Okay, let me attempt. Yes, it's true we don't have substantive CEO, but our deputy CEO is the one who is acting as CEO. So in terms of capacity and ability to do the job, we have no worries about his competency in handling the job. And maybe one thing you need to understand is that CEO is just head of secretariat. He's not an election official. He's not a returning officer in any way. So he's just head of secretariat facilitating the support function. So even with anybody who has capacity to handle that job, even if he or she is not substantive, delivery of service might not be affected. Because the only role requires is accounting officer, which is an appointment given to anybody who acts in that capacity by the Treasury, which he has been handling for the last 2 years. He's been doing it very well. In terms of senior positions, we have elaborate succession plan. Every director is deputized by several managers. So anytime there's a gap at the director level, any manager will take up. So we don't see any issue at that level that will interfere with our capacity to deliver. Of course, it is good to have people who are substantive in office so that they can settle down. But in terms of delivering, we don't see there is any operational gap.
Okay.
We tried to recruit CEO several times. Of course, the interested parties outside always send somebody to court to stop us on filthy ground. Like the last time we were told, anybody who have a degree as per the IEBC Act should just be interviewed. And we had almost 100 applicants. So if we have 100 applicants and just because you have a degree, we must interview you, we found that it's just another way of saying don't recruit.
Right.
Until we get our commissioners here who will recruit for us, our CEO of interest. So we didn't want to go into that. We have just decided to leave our officer to continue.
Wow.
We have already, just to add on that, we have already advertised for 2 directorate positions.
Yes.
I think ICT is where our colleague left. So we have already advertised that position. The other director who retired is in the research directorate, and we have had somebody competently acting since then, but we have also advertised. So those 2 positions will be filled.
Okay.
The other director who is likely, it's not likely, is the director of voter education. And as and when she goes, we have managers who can take over that position. So we have no deficit of staff in terms of the pool that we have to undertake, the various activities of the directorates.
All right.
Maybe just that, yes, in closing. There was a case in court which had stopped us from recruiting the CEO. That case is now since been concluded, and I think it's a matter we shall, as a commission, revisit as to now how to proceed from there.
Okay,
Yeah.
You have no timelines as yet?
Yes, we have not decided when to commence the process.
Okay.
I think in our next meeting we shall make that decision.
Chairman of Wafula Chebukati, Commissioner Professor Abdigulie and Commissioner Boyamolu, thank you so much for making time for us to have this conversation, to check on where we are as a country, but also how the Commission is going on with the activities, and wish you well. Of course, there will be so much happening in this country politically that may also affect how the Commission runs its activities. There has been the commissioners of the IEBC, the only serving commissioners after 4 colleagues of theirs left the Commission in October 2017 and sometimes in April of 2018. That's what I'm here with the conversation with IEBC commissioners. Back to you in studio. My name is Sam Gituku.